Okay, so today I have something very, very, very bad to talk about. But it needs to be talked about. And that is pornography. I've been doing some research in order to gather information for you. And I've been praying about how to put this together in a way that is not going to cause someone to stumble, but in a way that we can still talk about what is pornography's strategic plan for the man and for the woman who are getting involved in using pornography. Now, you might not think that you're using pornography. You might think, well, I'm just, I'm occasionally viewing it. That's using it. So, if you have a sensitive conscience, don't watch this video. I'm going to put another video up here for you to go to watch. And it's not going to be a Disney film, because Disney's gotten worse too. Now, it's going to be one of my videos, and I want you to go watch that instead of this one. And don't watch this one. But if you are okay to be able to hear about it, and it's not going to be a stumbling block for you, it's not going to cause you to go want to see what it is, because if you do that, if you have that attitude, you will stumble. And then you are vulnerable to what I'm trying to lay out here to show you the purpose of pornography against the man and against the woman. They're slightly different. There are slightly different game plans there for each of those. But there's a lot of overlap. So let's go ahead and get into it. I've got lists of the kinds of pornography that, like categories of things that are done to the man or done to the woman, or the woman does or the man does, things like this. I'm not going to get explicit. Not going to get explicit. I'm going to try to avoid using the terms that they use in pornography. Instead, I'm going to use more clinical terms as much as I can. I want to rob it of its fascination. I don't want to empower it. So let's get right into it. I'm going to go down through the list for the man first, and then for the woman. And I'm just going to list the different categories that I've made of pornography that I've reviewed. Now understand that not everyone can do this. Don't just go off and go, oh, I'm going to do this too and make a video. Don't do that. Because not everyone can go and preview pornography to see what is there in order to convey the plan of what's going on without stumbling, without giving into it and doing horrible things. You have to be wise. And most people cannot do that. Most people cannot do that. Don't run off and start doing that. So here it is. So for the man, this is in a certain order. I tried to do it in order of degradation, but there may be some things that are out of order of sort. It was a quick list. I mean, not a quick list of things, but a quick ordering of the list. So for man, you'll find pornography that just addresses straight sex, just addresses. It's not really the word. They put forward straight sex. Then there's sex with objects. And then there's hand sex. Now, obviously, I'm not going to use the word they use in pornography. Because not only is it degrading, but it also is enticing to some. So, hand sex. So you've got straight sex, sex with objects, hand sex. Then you have oral sex. And some of you protest and say, oral sex? Oral sex isn't pornography. It is pornography. Absolutely is pornography. You think, Ron, no, absolutely not. The body is for the enjoyment, Well, if that were so, then all sex would be possible. So, no. The sexual organs were designed for reproduction, and it was designed in such a way that we get pleasure out of it in order to encourage us to reproduce. So, like a reward. So, keep that in mind. And some of you will protest and take offense at that. And Why would you do that? That's been the historic Christian perspective throughout history. Only in the scientific age, the recent age, has it changed as we've made peace with the culture and taken in the cultural view on these things. The culture's view is not the Christian view. Now it gets worse. We've only hit the 4 that are the tamest. Straight sex. First off, you say there's nothing wrong with straight sex. There's something wrong if you're watching someone else having straight sex. That's voyeurism. So all of this is voyeurism, at least. You're watching other people naked, sometimes not naked, but you're at least seeing naked parts, if not the whole body naked. This is wrong. You remember the story of Noah, where his nakedness was exposed to one of his sons, and that son was cursed. Be careful. Straight sex, sex with objects, hand sex, and oral sex. Those are the 4 tamest. Now it gets much deeper. Then you have taboo sex. And in that you've got 2 main categories that come up for men. One is incest, and it comes in generally two different formats. Simulated role play, where the girl is dressed and trying to kind of act like she's underage. And she's not. She's obviously not. Then there's simulated cartoon and 3D incest. I'm sorry, this isn't about child pornography. This is about incest. So she's dressed, the storyline is something like it's brother and sister, or father and daughter, or mother and son, things like this. It's horrible. They're role-playing. But then there's simulated cartoon in 3D. 3D is where they made it in some animation program like Blender or something. And so they've simulated this as brother and sister, or mother and son, or father and daughter. Then there's child pornography. And now I didn't look at this. I didn't view all these different kinds, but I know that they exist. Child pornography, a simulated age role play. That's where, as I said, the girl pretends she's underage. And then simulated cartoon in 3D, where they make an underage girl in the cartoon or in the 3D. And then there's actual child pornography, which is completely illegal to view or to have on your computer, and especially to give to anyone else. So that's the taboo sex that you'll find in pornography. So already it's way over the edge. But it still gets worse. As if you thought it couldn't get worse, it still gets worse in different ways. So next is sodomy. Sodomy is everywhere in pornography. It's taken as something that's just a norm. And even in our world, in our culture, it's taken as just a norm. And if you've read your Bible, and if you believe the testimony of God, and you take it seriously, you will know sodomy is one of the worst crimes. God destroyed an entire 2 cities, not just the cities, but the valleys too, because of sodomy. Sodomy had become so normalized that God decided to destroy everyone. And he only saved Lot because Abraham came and negotiated with him. Sodomy, either taking with an object or giving for real. That's the men's side. The men either taking with an object, sodomy, or giving it for real to someone else. I know, just a little too graphic, okay? But there's no other way to say that. So now the next thing is switching gender. And this has become normalized in our American culture and a lot of Western culture. Thank God it's not normalized in the Slavic nations yet. So switching gender, it can be biologically with hormones, where the man actually grows the female parts here. It can be in appearances only, like cross-dressing. or it can be in actions only, like homosexuality. So, where they're behaving like a woman to a man, but they're not dressing like it. And they're not taking hormones. But you have all three of those different forms of it. And then there's one more, where the man stops using his gender, but doesn't switch. And he's part of the sex scene, but there's a contraption, and they can lock him up. Kind of like chastity belt, right? Of the medieval times or Victorian times. So there's that also in the pornography where they neutralize the man without changing his gender and without dressing him up, sometimes dressing him up, sometimes not. But I don't need to get into details on that. Just so you know, this is the overall strategy and game plan, if you can see the bird's eye view now of what's going on. Then there's another kind of form of it where the man is approving of his wife in adultery in the scene. She's having sex with another man, usually a black man, and he's usually white. And he's being submissive and passive. I'm not going to use the word for it, okay? You'll probably know it, but I'm not going to use it because I'm not going to glorify that. And then what you have, now this is a huge leap. Hypnotic brainwashing techniques. You're saying, what? What? Yeah. Hypnotic brainwashing techniques. Usually it goes under the title of hypno something. I'm not going to say the whole phrase. Again, I'm not going to glorify these things. But hypno something. So hypnotic brainwashing. Sometimes they outright call it brainwashing. And people will watch it. Men will watch that and sit there and expose themselves to flickering images on the screen where it flickers back and forth. And sometimes it flickers between a man and normal sex and a man as a woman doing abnormal sex. And it'll flicker back and forth, trying to make him make that switch between being a man and being a woman. And that's what it's designed for. It's designed to persuade the person in their head to switch themselves from man to woman. Hypnotic brainwashing techniques. And it's usually by flickering images and really hard driving music, rhythmical music. And then oftentimes also you'll have a woman's voice superimposed, very rarely a man's, but almost always a woman's voice superimposed, commanding him to do things, commanding him to change his mind, commanding him that he is a girl. So that it's literal and it's obvious and it's very, very, very forward. So, I mean, they're not even hiding it. Then you got orgies. Then you've got used as an object. For example, with the man, usually it's being used as an ashtray. The mouth is an ashtray where they dump ashes from cigarettes, things like that. Now it gets, this is the worst. This is the worst. You thought that was bad. This is the worst. Because it plummets down fast from here on. Enslaved and physically abused. I mean literally enslaved. Now you say, yeah, but it's mutual agreement, right? And yeah, it may be, but it's still enslavement. Because the man is bound up and he really literally can't unbind himself. He's at the mercy of whoever the other person or people is or are. Enslaved and physically abused. Now you'll see this in the form of face slapping. You'll have a whole video that's just face slapping. You know, one or two girls just slapping some man in the face really hard. I mean, like as hard as they can with their hand. And he's bound up. Peeing and spitting on. I won't say about other things that they do like that, but you get the idea. Peeing on someone and spitting on them. the man, peeing on the man and spitting on the man. It can be the other way around too. But the spitting is specifically the women doing that to the men. Whipping, that seems to be a very popular one in this category, whipping. They'll use like a full bullwhip, but the man will be bound up. He will be in bondage, he will be enslaved, and they will actually use whips and they will whip him until he's black and blue and even bleeding on the back. Torturing his genitals. That seems to be a very popular one with the women. Torturing the men's genitals. Horrible. Horrible. And then just bondage itself, combined with any of the others things that I've mentioned before. And then mutilation, where they actually physically mutilate. Now some of it's simulated castration, for example. And then you have horror porn. You say, horror porn? That's where you've got usually women pretending to be vampires, and at some point in the sex scene drawing blood from the neck and blood coming out, and things of this sort, or pretending to be zombies, and all kinds of things where they're doing a horror film in a very short porn film. It's horrible. And sometimes that'll be in 3D, and when it's in the 3D, like Blender, it's the most horrible, awful thing you've ever, you can't even imagine it. You can't even imagine the things that they create in that Blender for the 3D horror porn. Is absolutely way off the charts. You've never seen this in a movie, you've never heard of it before. Don't go watching it. Don't go looking for it. I'm serious, don't. It's the ultimate mutilation of the flesh. Horrible. Complete blasphemy against God as creator of the human body. And the last one, and the final capstone, which is the end game of all of this, is satanic symbols and rituals and satanic orgies. And they don't hide it. It's not hidden. It's not concealed. You don't have to kind of, dig around for months before you find something like that. You'll find it like that. It's very easy to get to. It's very common. Those are the categories of porn that is used to drive these men down into the degradation of the body and the worship of Satan. That's the game plan of porn. Now, if after watching this video, you want to go watch porn, why? When you know what its game plan is, why would you want to then go watch it? When you know what it's trying to do to you, and what you're going to think, oh, but I'm sorry about that. I'm stronger. I'm strong. It won't, I can, just kind of dip my foot in it. I don't like anything that's gay. I don't like anything that's abusive and violent. So I'd never get to that point. Don't ever say you'll never get to that point, because you will. You'll be watching one of these you think is a straight sex film. Then they'll start in with the chanting of the woman telling you, and suggesting to you, and then telling you, that maybe you like men. Maybe you like that. Maybe you're like this. Or they'll start flashing images and you didn't think it was that kind of video. And in the middle of it, they start flashing images and you go, oh no, what are they doing? And then suddenly you get this stimulation. You go, oh, this kind of feels good. I wonder what they're doing. And you start using curiosity as an excuse. Don't go there. Don't go there. They will trick you at some point to push you down to the next level. Don't go there. Now I'm going to go through the list for women, and a lot of it's going to be the same. and I'll stop on the places that are a little different. So with women, it starts with straight sex, sex with objects, hand sex, where she's giving the hand sex, usually, and oral sex. Now, the oral sex, it can be stimulation to a climax, or it can be various terrible things with the discharge from the oral sex. And that is absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And it reminds me of the quote that Paul takes from the Old Testament, where it says that their mouths are like open graves. Because that discharge is life. It's life. It's meant for the womb of the woman. For life. It is alive. And it's supposed to join with other life to create new life. But instead, it's like a grave for it. Let's keep going. Taboo. This is a little different for the women. It's got the incest with simulated role play and simulated cartoon in 3D. It's got the child porn. It does. Women have child porn. There's child porn for women. Simulated age role play. It's the women, the full-grown women to the underage boys. Or underage girls. It can be lesbian porn with underage girls. It can be in simulated cartoon in 3D, or it can be actual. But then, in the taboo category, are animals. You don't find that with men, but you find it with women. Simulated or real, and simulated cartoon in 3D. Terrible. Awful. Awful. And the Bible addresses these things. The Bible says that they are taboo. God forbids them. Sodomy, either giving with an object, the woman giving with an object, or taking with an object. Or taking with the real thing. Lesbian porn. The hypnotic brainwashing techniques, that's for women too. There are some specifically for women. There's the orgies. Being used as an object is even stronger category for women than men. There are more for women there. Enslaved and physically abused. Face slapping of women. Peeing and spitting on. Usually not spitting on for the women. Usually it's peeing on. Bondage, mutilation, horror porn, and satanic symbols and rituals and satanic orgies. So, and it's driving both of the genders the same path to the degradation of the body, the complete degradation, the normalizing of the degradation of the body, and the worship of Satan. This was, I knew some of this existed, but with this research, it's horrible. It's horrible. A lot of these things have existed the whole time. You've got the sex with animals going back into ancient Greece. You've got a lot of these things that go back. They're not new. It's just that we've got the porn industry now that's new. This making it, even glamorizing it and making the people think that this is normal. This is not normal. It is not normal. I don't care how many people that you know who do these things. It's not normal. And normal is not the standard for morality anyway. Even if 90% of the people did it, it doesn't make it right. If you lived in Sodom at the time of Lot, you say, well, everyone's doing it. I don't know anyone except Lot and his, group of weirdos who aren't doing it. Everyone's doing it. It's normal. This is normal sex. That's what they would argue. But is it right? Is it moral? It's not. And God judges those who do these things. They will be cast into the lake of burning sulfur. The word pornos is actually a Greek word. That's where we get the word from. It means illegal sex. And it doesn't mean illegal in terms of our culture's law. It means illegal in terms of God's law. If it's illegal in God's eyes, in God's royalty, in God's kingdom, then it is pornography. And you have to not do it. So this video is a stiff warning to men and women who are enticed by these illegal forms of sex. Don't do them. Whatever excuse you have, don't do them. Don't go chasing after pornography, especially. Pornography in either writing or videos or pictures, whatever, or audio. But the videos are the most popular, of course. Don't do it. Don't do it. When you abuse the body may recover from it, but if you continually abuse it, the body starts to show the signs of wear and tear. And God may heal you from that. If you beg Him for forgiveness and seek Him for forgiveness, stopping the pornography and seeking Him and begging Him for forgiveness, He may heal your body of the consequences of that, but He may not. And if He doesn't, then you suffer the consequences of that for your whole life. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Maybe you engaged in sodomy for so long, or you were the one receiving it, right? To where you have to wear a bag your last 30 years of your life. A bag on your butt. Because you can't hold in your poop. This is a real situation. It's a real condition. You don't want to end up like that. You don't want to. Or maybe, of course, catching some sort of disease. And you may say, well, Ron, but I would wear a condom. Condoms are not 100% effective. They're not. They're permeable. Not only that, there are diseases we don't know about that might be even smaller and be able to permeate it. And there's always leakage and all kinds of ways of getting contact. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. And aside from that, it makes God mad. You want God's grace? Well, the word grace means cheerful. You think God's cheerful about you having sodomy? You got to read your Bible again. He is not cheerful. You do not have the grace of God. If you're committing sodomy, you do not have the grace of God. Because that's His cheerfulness. God is angry about sodomy. He's not cheerful about it. So I hope this video will be useful to some of you. That it will sober you up to completely avoid that garbage, that sewage. Completely avoid it. Set your heart on the Lord. Set your heart on living a holy life. It doesn't mean you can't have sex. You can have sex if you get married. And when you get married, don't do any of these things. Well, straight sex, yes, right? But be careful about, if you are married or do get married, how you have sex, how you control your body in passion with your spouse. How do you do that to honor God and enjoy what He's given you? We can't just do anything we want with it. No. You need to set your heart on the Lord. Set your heart on the Lord and honor Him in your relationship with your spouse. Honor Him in your relationship with other people too, in not having sex with them, in not even hinting at it. No flirting. I'm serious. No flirting. Be very careful. If you think you don't flirt or you're not sure, ask someone, especially a man who's watching. Ask your husband, right? Or if you're not married, ask your brother, right? Do I flirt with men? Or if you don't have a brother or a husband, ask your dad. Does it look like I'm flirting with men? And ask. Or ask your girlfriend, does it look like I'm flirting with men? And get another opinion about it and stop it. Learn how it is that you're flirting with them and stop it. Don't flirt. Serious, don't flirt. Don't give any kind of indication that you're open for sex. That's what flirting is. Flirting is giving an indication that you're open to sex. You say, Ron, that is not. It is. It absolutely is. It doesn't mean you're going to go out back and have sex with them right away, but it says that there's a possibility that it could happen. That's what flirting is all about. Don't flirt. Don't flirt. Honor God with your body. Honor God with your gender, with your sexuality. Learn what that means. If you're single, learn what that means. You know what that means? That means abstaining. Yeah, that's how you honor God with your sexuality when you're single, by abstaining, by resisting, by keeping that and protecting it, so that if and when you get married, it is intact and it is clean for your husband or for your wife. Oftentimes men think they can go around having sex with girls, but the girl, she has to be a virgin. No, it's both ways. You both need to be a virgin when you get married. Now, if you have been married before and you've divorced under the two possibilities in the scripture, you can see my videos about that. I've got 2 or 3 videos about that. Either by Jesus's exception or by Paul's exception. If you've been divorced before, then you're not going to be a virgin if you remarry. And yes, you can remarry, but only under those 2 circumstances. Either your spouse committed adultery against you, or your spouse was a non-believer and didn't want to stay with you. If you divorce under either one of those, you can remarry. And in that case, of course, you're not going to be a virgin. So there is that possibility. But if you are single, you must remain a virgin. That's how you manage your sexuality to honor God. And if you've been married and you're divorced, you also do the same thing as when you were single, of maintaining your sexuality and your purity until you get married again, if you get married again. This is God's standard. This is how you honor God. This is how you live holy regarding your gender and sexuality. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart. Remember to subscribe down below and like the video and share it on your Facebook and other social media. And then make a comment, whether a question or a comment. We read all of them and we try to respond to all. Get on over to our website, The Rooted Word, and start reading the translation and also the articles we've posted. It's at therootedword.com, therootedword.com. And may the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.